You wake up in your tiny hab cell to the familiar hiss of steam and the distant thrum of industrial machines. Your hive city is built of rusted metal and polluted air. You have lived your entire life within these walls, breathing fumes and working for meager rations. The sky above is a perpetual orange haze. On this particular morning, a sharp, unfamiliar alarm cuts through the normal din. People stumble out of their cubicles, confused. The loudspeakers crackle with an order. All able-bodied citizens of Hive Primus are to report to the central plaza immediately. Your heart pounds as rumors spread. Some say it is a drill. Others whisper of invasion. You feel a knot in your stomach. You grip a threadbare jacket and head out. The corridor is packed. Hundreds of workers shuffle through narrow passageways, clutching their belongings. You pass children crying and elderly folks being pushed aside. The metallic walls are plastered with propaganda posters showing proud soldiers. Under the double-headed aquila, they read, "Serve the Emperor and honor your tithe." You never imagined these slogans would apply to you. The crowd merges into a huge square at the heart of the hive. It is normally used for trade, but now it is lined with uniformed Planetary Defense Force PDF troopers carrying laskins. In the center, a raised platform holds administratum officials and a stern commissar in a peaked cap with a skull emblem. The officials begin reading names from large parchment scrolls. Each name is followed by an order to step forward and receive a conscription badge. The list seems endless. When your name is called, you feel everyone's eyes on you. You push through the crowd, your legs trembling. A clerk hands you a metal badge stamped with an identification number. "Report to the south gate by sundown," she says. The commissar's gaze sweeps across the assembled citizens. In a booming voice he declares that the Imperium is under constant threat, and every world must meet its manpower quotas. He reminds everyone that refusing the call to service is punishable by execution of 40 Combrew. FANDOM.com. The crowd falls silent. The weight of duty presses upon you. You return home, your mind racing. You have little time to prepare, and you are allowed to bring only what you can carry in a small satchel. You look around your tiny living space. There is a cot, a shelf with a few personal items, and a rusted sink. You pick up a faded picture of your family, your mother, your siblings, and you smiling at a rare festival. You tuck the photo into your pocket. You reach for a small charm with the Emperor's symbol that hangs on your wall. Even if you have never been deeply religious, you know that belief can give strength. As you pack, you overhear your neighbor telling his son that their lineage has always paid the tithe through labor, never through blood. Now times have changed. At the appointed time, you join the line of conscripts at the south gate. PDF troopers herd people onto massive transport trucks. The vehicles rumble with the weight of dozens of bodies. There is a sense of disbelief among your fellow conscripts. You see young women who look barely older than teenagers and old men who never dreamed they would fight. The commissar walks among the trucks, scanning faces. He stops occasionally to admonish someone whose uniform is crooked or whose bag is too heavy. His presence is unnerving. You know his job is to enforce discipline with lethal authority. Warhammer 40K.fandom.com. He shouts, "Remember, you serve the Astra Militarism, the largest fighting force in the galaxy." Warhammer 40K.fandom.com. You are the shield of mankind. His words echo in your ears as the gate opens. The convoy travels through the lower levels of the hive, past factories and hab blocks, until you reach the spaceport. The port is a fortress of metal walls and gun towers. Transports resembling giant metal beasts sit on the landing pads, their engines idling. Ramps lead into cavernous holds where thousands will soon sit shoulder to shoulder. You look up and see the faint outline of stars through the smog. The sky, which you have seen only as a blur, now seems more real and more frightening. As you board the ship, you realize this may be the last time you see your homeworld. Inside the troop carrier, you are greeted by a cacophony. The hold is lit by harsh lumen strips. Rows of simple benches fill the space. Overhead, pipes and cables snake along the ceiling. The air smells of oil and sweat. You find a seat next to a nervous young man who introduces himself as Darius. He worked in the same sector as you, but you have never met him. The transport shudders as the doors seal. The intercom crackles to life. All passengers are to secure themselves. Launch in 5 minutes. Fear and excitement mix in your chest. You grip your seat tightly as the engines roar. You feel a heavy weight pressing you down as the craft lifts off. As the transport leaves the planet's atmosphere, your ears pop. Someone retches nearby. Darius squeezes his eyes shut. You glance at the viewport and see the ground receding, the hive city becoming a tiny cluster of lights. Above, the void of space stretches endlessly. The stars seem cold and indifferent. The deck vibrates as the transport docks with a larger vessel, a transport ship of the Imperial Navy. The docking clamps engage with a jolt. A voice orders everyone to disembark and line up for processing. You unbuckle and follow the throng into a corridor lined with Imperial Navy ratings. They direct you towards a large chamber where medical staff await. In the processing area, Medicaid personnel wearing white robes and rebreathers take samples of your blood and measure your vitals. They check your eyes, your teeth, and your reflexes. You are not alone. Hundreds of others undergo the same tests. Administratum scribes record your details on data slates. Each step is efficient, almost mechanical. You are given a basic issue of clothing, a plain tunic, trousers, and boots. The insignia of your hive world is stamped on the shoulder. You are then assigned to a temporary barracks. It is a large compartment with bunk beds stacked 3 high. The noise level is overwhelming. Some people whisper prayers. Others ask questions. A few cry quietly. You notice how quickly the system reduces individuals to numbers. That evening, a training officer addresses your group. He is a grizzled veteran with scars across his face. He introduces himself as Sergeant Harlan. Listen up, he barks. You are now recruits of the Imperial Guard. You were civilians this morning. That ends now. Our enemies are ruthless heretics, aliens, traitors. Without us, the Imperium would fall. You will be shaped into soldiers who can stand against them. His voice is rough but not unkind. He explains that the next weeks will break down everything you know and rebuild you. He warns that those who refuse to adapt will face disciplinary action from the commissariat. The mention of commissars sends a shiver down your spine. You lie awake on your bunk that night, staring at the metal ceiling. The thrum of the ship's engines is a constant reminder that you are far from home. You think about your family and wonder how they are coping. Did they hear the announcement? Do they know where you are? You clutch the picture of your family to your chest and promise yourself you will survive and return. You whisper a simple prayer, Emperor, watch over me, whether you believe in the Emperor or not. The prayer gives you comfort. You finally drift into a restless sleep. The next day begins with a blaring klaxon. Sergeant Harlan storms into the barracks, yelling for everyone to get up. He hands out schedules. Your days will be filled with physical training, weapons drills, and indoctrination. You will be taught to handle Alaskan, to obey orders without hesitation, and to endure hardship. The schedule leaves little room for rest. You feel like you have been thrown into a storm, yet there is also a sense of purpose. You and the others share uncertain smiles as you file out for your first drill. In the back of your mind, you know this is only the beginning. The arrival of conscription may have been sudden, but it is not entirely random. You learn from overheard conversations that the Imperium has quotas for every planet. The Astra Militarism, or Imperial Guard, is described in the primers as humanity's largest army. Warhammer 40K.fandom.com. Composed of countless regiments raised from every world. When a planet's usual contributions of resources and personnel fall short, the administratum resorts to mass drafts. WH40K homebrew.fandom.com. This ensures a steady supply of soldiers to fight the galaxy's endless wars. Some recruits quietly grumble about the unfairness. Others, influenced by decades of propaganda, speak of duty and honor. You are caught between cynicism and patriotism. You realize that you must adapt quickly if you are to survive. As the ship continues its journey, you notice subtle changes within yourself. The panic of the first day gives way to grim determination. You begin to accept that you cannot control everything. You focus on what you can control, following orders, keeping your kit tidy, and learning quickly. You bond with Darius and a few other recruits. You share stories and jokes to ease the tension. In the evenings, you gather with others to read the Imperial Infantryman's uplifting primer. The book contains praise for the Guard and instructions on how to react in battle. Warhammer 40K. FANDOM.com. It also tells you that the enemies of mankind are weak and that bravery will always be rewarded. You find some of its claims hard to believe, but reading together strengthens your camaraderie. When the troopship completes its warp jump, the hum of the engines shifts and the crew begins barking orders to prepare for docking. You and your fellow recruits are herded into formation in the loading bay. Sergeant Harlan strides down the line, checking uniforms and posture. Today we arrive at the staging world where you will complete your training, he announces. From there, you will be assigned to a regiment. His tone is businesslike. but you can sense the underlying tension. The unknown looms ahead. You glance at Darius, who flashes a nervous grin. The reality is sinking in. You will not be going home anytime soon. The troopship docks with a massive orbital station. Through small portholes, you see other ships being loaded and unloaded by mechanical arms. Fighters dart between them like insects. When the hatch opens, a blast of cooler, cleaner air hits your face. You step onto a metal walkway and follow the line of recruits into the station's interior. The halls are wide, with high ceilings and bright lumen strips. Crew members, tech priests, and servitors move in an orderly fashion. The station feels like a city in space. You have never seen such a clean, open environment. It is both comforting and intimidating. In a large assembly hall, an officer addresses the newcomers. She informs you that you will undergo additional screening and assignment. The Imperium raises countless regiments, each with specific roles: infantry, artillery, armor, and specialists. Your skills and physical condition will determine where you fit. The officer also explains that some of you may be combined into units called Conscript, levies, because your world did not have enough trained forces. WH40K HOME.FA&DOM.com. The idea of being thrown into battle with little training worries you, but you remind yourself that at least you will not be alone. Thousands of others share your fate. You are given a brief tour of the station. It houses barracks, training ranges, armories, and medical facilities. The corridors are lined with plaques commemorating past regiments. Some display lists of honored dead, others show battle honors. The sheer scale of the Imperial war effort becomes more apparent. You see units from other worlds, each wearing different colors and bearing different banners. A group of tall, pale soldiers from a planet called Vostroya march past in furs and heavy boots. They look at you with a mix of curiosity and pity. To them, you are a raw recruit. To you, they are veterans. You settle into a new barracks with your assigned squad. Sergeant Harlan explains that your squad will be like your new family. You will train together, fight together, and if necessary, die together. The squad comprises 10 individuals, including you, Darius, a quiet woman named Alara, a cheerful man named Rico, and others from different districts. Each has a story. Alara once worked as a Medicaid assistant. Rico was a maintenance tech. Now you all share the same path. The sense of camaraderie begins to deepen. You help each other unpack and make your bunks. You trade stories and jokes to break the ice. In the following days, you undergo advanced physical training. You run obstacle courses that simulate battlefield conditions, climbing walls, crawling under wire, carrying heavy loads while being shouted at. The exercises are designed to build endurance and teamwork. When someone stumbles, the entire squad must repeat the course. This fosters a sense of responsibility for one another. You learn to push past fatigue. Your muscles ache and your lungs burn, but you feel yourself growing stronger. You begin to see yourself as more than a worker. You are becoming a soldier. One afternoon, you are taken to a firing range. You are issued laskins again, but this time the drills are more challenging. Targets pop up at random intervals and at varying distances. Instructors shout commands, forcing you to react quickly. You practice shooting while standing, kneeling, and lying prone. You learn to conserve your weapons' power packs and to swap them swiftly. The instructors emphasize accuracy and discipline over volume of fire. They remind you that the enemy will be relentless. Calm, controlled shots will keep you alive, apart from physical and weapons training. You attend lectures on Imperial history and the threats facing mankind. A stern scholar from the Departmentum Unitorum speaks of the Great Crusade, the Horus Heresy, and the countless Xenos species. He shows images of orcs, hulking green brutes with crude weapons, Tyranids, hive creatures that devour everything, and chaos humans warped by dark gods. The scholar emphasizes that the Imperial Guard is humanity's first line of defense. Warhammer 40K, FANDOM.com. He stresses that the Emperor's light must be protected at all costs. The lectures are both inspiring and terrifying. The galaxy is far more dangerous than you imagined. Between lectures and drills, you spend time with your squad mates. You share stories of your lives before conscription. Alara talks about tending to the wounded in a hive clinic. Rico boasts about his mechanical skills and promises to fix any weapon that jams. Darius reveals his dream of seeing a real sky. The more you learn about your squad, the more you care. This bond becomes a source of strength. You begin to understand why war stories often emphasize comradeship. You also realize that if one of you falls, it will hurt deeply. Some evenings, the commissar visits the barracks to deliver stern sermons about duty. He recounts tales of regiments that showed cowardice and were wiped out to the last man. Warhammer 40K, FANDOM.com. He praises units that held the line against impossible odds. He calls your attention to the fact that the Imperial Guard fights without glory. WARHAMMER 40K.FANDOM. The Adeptus Astarte Space Marines may get the heroic songs, but it is the ordinary guardsmen who bleed and die by the millions. His words are harsh, but they reinforce the seriousness of your situation. He reminds you that disobedience and desertion will be met with immediate punishment. You do not doubt him. The weeks pass quickly, filled with labor and learning. One day, you are surprised when the squad is given a half-day of rest. You spend it exploring the station's small recreation area. There is a chapel with candles and statues of saints. You light a candle for your family. There is also a Vox station where you can send a brief message home. You record a short message. We are alive. Training is hard, but we are learning. I miss you. You doubt it will reach your family anytime soon, but the act of sending it comforts you. For a moment, the war seems far away. Your rest period is brief. The next day, you are marched to a large hangar. There, you see rows of Chimera transport vehicles, Basilisk artillery pieces, and even a few massive Banablade super heavy tanks. The sight is awe-inspiring. Sergeant Harlan explains that these are the tools of war you will support. He describes how infantry and armor work together, how artillery softens enemy positions, and how the Guard's strength lies in combined arms tactics. WARHAMMER 40K.FANDOM.com. You realize that you are part of something enormous. Thousands of machines and millions of soldiers work in concert to keep humanity alive. Suddenly, an alarm blares. Drill instructors rush in, shouting for everyone to gear up. This is not a drill. Someone shouts. Panic flares, but Sergeant Harlan keeps you focused. Move, he barks. You grab your laskin, secure your helmet, and line up. Moments later, a giant hololith display flickers on. An officer announces that enemy raiders have been detected in the outer docking ring. All available units are to secure the perimeter. Adrenaline surges through your veins. This will be your first taste of combat. You race through corridors with your squad, following established fire lanes. The metal deck plates reverberate with boots. As you reach a blast door leading to the docking ring, you hear gunfire and screams. Sergeant Harlan orders you to take positions behind crates. You peek around the corner and see figures wearing ragged armor and wielding crude weapons. They are Chaos Raiders, humans twisted by the influence of the ruinous powers. FantasyFlightGames.com. They are attacking supply crews and trying to sabotage ships. Your hands shake, but you steady your breathing. This is what you have trained for. Fire! Harlan commands. Last bolts streak through the air, their red beams leaving ghostly trails. The raiders return fire with stubbers and autoguns. You see a comrade collapse, hit in the shoulder. Elara, despite being new to battle, crawls to him and applies a tourniquet. Her medical training proves invaluable. Rico manages to hit a raider square in the chest, dropping him. Darius curses as a stray bullet ricochets near his head. The firefight is chaotic, noisy, and terrifying. You focus on aiming, squeezing the trigger, reloading. You remember the drills. You shoot, duck, breathe, and shoot again. After several tense minutes, the raiders retreat. Realizing they cannot overcome the station's defenders, the blast doors seal, and you realize that you must adapt quickly if you are to survive. As the ship continues its journey, you notice subtle changes within yourself. The panic of the first day gives way to grim determination. You begin to accept that you cannot control everything. You focus on what you can control, following orders, keeping your kit tidy, and learning quickly. You bond with Darius and a few other recruits. You share stories and jokes to ease the tension. In the evenings, you gather with others to read the Imperial Infantryman's uplifting primer. The book contains praise for the Guard and instructions on how to react in battle. Warhammer 40K, FANDOM.com. It also tells you that the enemies of mankind are weak and that bravery will always be rewarded. You find some of its claims hard to believe, but reading together strengthens. After the skirmish on the station, your group is shuffled to a transport shuttle bound for your final training world. This world, Thracia Prime, is known as a mustering planet for newly formed regiments. It boasts sprawling training grounds, extensive shooting ranges, and simulated battlefields. The shuttle's descent through the atmosphere rattles your teeth. You see vast forests, rocky plains, and rivers through small windows. When the craft lands, you are overwhelmed by the fresh smell of trees and soil. For someone who grew up in a hive, The scent of nature is foreign and invigorating. You gulp the clean air and savor it. You are marched from the landing pad to a sprawling training camp. Dozens of barracks, mess halls and training fields stretch out before you. Flags bearing different regimental insignia flutter in the breeze. You pass squads running drills and hear instructors barking orders. The scale of the camp underscores the magnitude of the Imperial Guard. This is just one of many training facilities across the Imperium. You cannot fathom how many soldiers are being prepared at this moment. Warhammer40K.fandom.com. The thought is dizzying. You focus on your own steps as you cross the base. Your squad is assigned to a barracks and introduced to a new instructor, Sergeant Vokir. She is tall and stern, with a bionic arm and piercing eyes. She immediately sets a strict tone. You have survived your first engagement, but do not think you are ready for war, she says. Here you will learn discipline, tactics and survival. You will be broken down and remade in the Emperor's image. Her bionic arm whirs as she gestures. She leads you to a chalkboard showing the week's schedule. It is packed with drills, weapons training, tactics simulations, hand-to-hand combat, survival exercises and indoctrination sessions. There is no room for leisure. Physical training intensifies. Each morning begins with a 10-kilometer run at dawn. The terrain is rugged. You run up hills, through mud and across rocky ground. Vokir pushes you relentlessly. When someone falls, she orders the entire squad to carry them. This teaches you that no one is left behind. Your muscles ache constantly. Blisters form on your feet. Yet each day you notice improvement. Your breathing becomes steadier. Your legs grow stronger. The exhaustion becomes familiar. You start to respect your own resilience. Weapons training becomes more complex. In addition to laskins, you learn to handle heavier weapons, grenade launchers, heavy bolters and flamers. You practice firing from cover, advancing while shooting and changing positions quickly. Vokir emphasizes that the Guard relies on overwhelming firepower. Warhammer40K.fandom.com. She also teaches you to maintain your weapons meticulously. A jammed gun can mean death. You spend evenings disassembling and cleaning components. Rico proves handy. His mechanical background allows him to fix minor issues quickly. He shares his knowledge generously, further endearing him to the squad. Tactics are taught through simulators and war games. You use holographic tables to plan assaults on simulated enemy positions. You learn the importance of cover, flanking maneuvers and suppressive fire. You study the strengths and weaknesses of different foes. Orcs are strong but reckless. Tyranids are fast and numerous. Chaos forces are unpredictable. Vokir shows you footage of real battles where poor tactics led to disaster. She stresses that being brave is not enough. You must be smart. You begin to see warfare as a complex dance of movement, timing and coordination. Hand-to-hand combat training is brutal. You practice with combat knives and bayonets. You spar with fellow recruits, learning to parry and strike. Bruises and cuts become common. Vokir encourages aggression but also control. Rage without discipline is useless, she says. You internalize this lesson. You also learn close quarters drills using your laskin as a club. The training prepares you for the possibility of enemies charging your lines. The idea of stabbing someone up close is horrifying, but you know you must be ready. Survival training takes place in the wilderness beyond the camp. Your squad is dropped in a forest with limited supplies and told to navigate back to base. Within 2 days, you learn to build shelters, find food and purify water. You practice moving stealthily and setting up watch rotations. The exercise fosters trust. Ilara's knowledge of healing plants helps you treat blisters and insect bites. Darius demonstrates an unexpected knack for navigation using the stars. You all discover strengths you didn't know you had. When you finally reach camp, exhausted and hungry, you feel a sense of accomplishment. Indoctrination sessions continue to fill your evenings. Priests of the ecclesiarchy lead chants and sermons. They read from the Book of Litanies of Faith, extolling the Emperor's virtues. They describe the horrors of chaos and the righteousness of the imperial cause. The sermons are repetitive, but their messages seep into you. You begin to feel a connection to something larger than yourself. You see your service not just as a duty imposed upon you, but as a way to protect humanity from annihilation. However, part of you still questions the necessity of sacrifice on such a scale. You keep those thoughts to yourself. During one indoctrination session, a senior commissar visits and tells the story of the Valhallan 23rd Regiment. He recounts how they held a frozen trench for weeks against chaos forces, refusing to retreat despite dwindling supplies. Their commissar executed those who tried to desert Warhammer40K.fandom.com. In the end, the regiment's stubborn defense saved an entire sector. The story is intended to inspire loyalty. It also serves as a warning. The message is clear. The survival of billions may depend on the willingness of a few to die. You see some recruits swallow hard. Others nod resolutely. In quieter moments, you write in a small notebook you are allowed to keep. You record your thoughts, describe your training, and reflect on your feelings. Writing helps you process the intense experiences. You also sketch scenes the farthest during survival training. The face of Sergeant Valkyr when she smiled she rarely does. These pages become a personal journal, something to anchor you amid the chaos. You imagine one day showing them to your family, if you survive. The act of writing grounds you. Your squad dynamics evolve. Rico and Darius become like brothers. Elara displays quiet strength and compassion. Another recruit, Jax, initially aloof, reveals a sharp sense of humor. Sergeant Valkyr, though strict, shows care in her own way. She ensures no one is left behind during runs, and she quietly gives advice to those struggling. You start to trust her. The more you bond, the more you fear losing your comrades. The thought of death becomes personal. You realize that you are not just fighting for the Imperium, you are fighting for each other. One evening, you have a rare moment of leisure. The camp organizes a ballad competition. Each squad must create a song about the Emperor or the Imperial Guard. It sounds trivial, but it brings laughter and camaraderie. You and Rico write a humorous song about the commissar's mustache and how it scares away orcs. Elara, talented with music, turns it into a catchy tune. When your squad performs, the audience laughs and claps. Even Valkyr smirks. The event reminds you that even in grim times, joy can be found. These small moments of levity lighten your burdens. The next week, you face a grueling test known as the Gauntlet. It is a simulated battle environment designed to push you to your limits. Your squad must cross a mock battlefield riddled with obstacles, booby traps, and enemy markers. The test combines everything you have learned: tactics, teamwork, endurance, and courage. You move under fire simulations, coordinate with other squads, call for mock artillery support, and treat simulated casualties. The test lasts 12 hours. You are exhausted, hungry, and covered in grime. When you finally cross the finish line, you collapse. Sergeant Valkyr smiles genuinely for the first time. "Well done," she says. "You are no longer just conscripts. You are guardsmen." After the gauntlet, there is a ceremony. You and your squad stand at attention as a flag bearer presents the regimental colors of the unit. You are to join. A colonel speaks about honor, duty, and the sacrifices ahead. He pins the Aquila badge on each of you. The badge is heavier than you expected. It is a symbol that you have been accepted into the regiment. You feel a mixture of pride and fear. You are proud to have completed training. You are afraid of what comes next. The indoctrination has prepared you mentally. The training has prepared you physically. Now you must face real war. Before you depart Thracia Prime, you are given a short leave within the camp to write final letters home. You sit under a tree, something you never saw in your hive, and write to your family. You tell them about the forests, the friends you have made, and the skills you have learned. You avoid mentioning the fear. You want to reassure them. You fold the letter carefully and hand it to a courier. There is no guarantee it will ever arrive, but it feels important to send. The simple act of writing to your family connects you to your past. As Chapter 3 concludes, you realize how much you have changed. The weak, scared conscript who left the hive is gone. In his place stands a trained guardsman. The training has been harsh, sometimes cruel, but it has forged you and your squad into a cohesive unit. You understand how to fight, how to survive, and how to obey. You also understand the weight of your duty. The indoctrination has given you a cause, but your heart still remembers your family and friends. You are ready to deploy. The next chapter will see you leave Thracia Prime and step onto a true bat. Your regiment receives orders to deploy to a conflict zone known as the Throne of War, a contested planet on the edge of Imperial space. The planet is strategically vital because of its rare mineral deposits. Imperial forces have been fighting orc warbands there for months. The orcs are brutal and numerous, and they have entrenched themselves in the planet's mountain ranges. It is now your regiment's turn to join the fray. The announcement fills the camp with a mix of apprehension and excitement. The day you have been training for has come. You load onto a transport ship along with hundreds of other guardsmen. The hold is even more crowded than before. This time, there is less chatter. The reality of what lies ahead weighs on everyone. You sit with your squad, checking your gear repeatedly. Your laskin is clean, your bayonet is sharp, and your supplies are in order. The ship rumbles to life. The warp engines hum. Sergeant Fokker offers a few words. Remember your training. Trust your squad. Keep your faith. The Emperor protects. Her words are simple but steadying. You grip your weapon and close your eyes, mentally preparing for what is to come. The journey to the throne of war is shorter than the trip to Thracia Prime, but it feels longer due to the anxiety. You try to sleep, but your mind runs through different scenarios. What if you freeze in battle? What if you get separated from your squad? What if you die? You remind yourself that fear is natural and that courage is acting in spite of it. You recall the Commissar's stories and the teachings from the indoctrination sessions. You repeat the Emperor's name silently until you finally drift into a light, uneasy sleep. You awaken to the sound of alarms. The transport has entered the planet's atmosphere. The descent is rough. Turbulence tosses the craft. Loose equipment rattles. You grip your seat harness. Through a small window, you catch glimpses of a barren landscape scarred by craters and trenches. You see flashes of distant explosions. The war is real, and it is happening right below you. The craft touches down with a heavy thud. The ramp lowers, revealing a gray, smoke-filled sky and chaos outside. Sergeant Fokker yells, "Move out." Adrenaline surges through your veins as you run down the ramp onto the soil of the throne of war. The landing zone is hectic. Vehicles roar past. Medicaid teams carry stretchers loaded with wounded soldiers. You hear heavy artillery firing in the distance and the unmistakable roar of orc war cries. You are directed to a trench network that has been prepared by previous regiments. The trenches are muddy and narrow, reinforced with sandbags and plasteel plates. In these trenches, you will live, fight, and maybe die. The smell of damp earth mixes with the metallic scent of blood and the acrid smell of propellant. You try to focus on immediate tasks. You help dig and fortify your section of the trench, pushing aside fear with work. Once you are set, your squad meets the company commander, Captain Logan. He is a stern man with a scar across his cheek and an authoritative presence. He briefs you on the situation. The orcs hold a series of hilltop fortifications overlooking the valley, where the Imperial forces have established their trenches. Daily assaults have been repelled by heavy orc fire. Your company's task is to storm one of these hills, take the fortification and hold it. The attack is scheduled for dawn. Captain Logan emphasizes that timing and coordination with artillery are crucial. The plan is to advance under the cover of a barrage, reach the enemy trenches and engage in hand-to-hand combat if necessary. The casualties are expected to be high that night. You sit in the trench with your squad. The world around you is quiet except for distant gunfire and the occasional scream. You clean your weapon methodically. You check your ammunition. You whisper a prayer. Ilara sits beside you, her hands shaking slightly. "We'll get through this," you say softly. She nods. Rico cracks a joke about orcs being too stupid to aim. It makes you smile despite the dread. Darius hums a tune you recognize from your hive. These small comforts help you cope. You also think of your family. You hope they are safe, unaware of the carnage you are about to face. As dawn approaches, the artillery barrage begins. The ground shakes violently. Massive guns behind the lines fire shells that whistle overhead and detonate on the orc fortifications. The sky lights up with red and orange bursts. You feel the concussive force in your chest. This is the power of the Imperial Guards Artillery. Warhammer 40K.fandom.com. Sergeant Fokker moves down the line, shouting over the noise. "Ready on my command." Your heart races. When the barrage lifts, she blows a whistle. "Go." You climb out of the trench and run forward. The charge begins. The battlefield is a chaotic blur. You sprint across open ground, your feet slipping in mud. Laskin beams crisscross the air. Orcs roar and fire crude, inaccurate weapons. Explosions erupt around you, throwing dirt and bodies into the air. You focus on following your squad, staying low and moving fast. You reach the foot of the hill and hurl yourself into a shell crater to catch your breath. You glance up and see orcs emerging from their trenches, bigger and uglier than you imagined. Their green skin contrasts with their rusty armor. They wield axes, swords, and massive guns that look like they were cobbled together from scrap. They are terrifying. You scramble up the slope, firing as you go. Your Laskin's barrel heats up. You aim at the nearest orc, a hulking brute with a metal jaw. Your first shot hits its shoulder, but it hardly flinches. Your second shot pierces its eye, dropping it. The realization that you have killed a living creature hits you. There is no time to dwell on it. Another orc swings a crude cleaver at you. You duck and jab your bayonet into its belly. It screams, a horrible sound. You yank your weapon free. Blood sprays. Fear, adrenaline, and training drive you. Your senses narrow to the immediate actions: shoot, move, survive. Around you, the battle intensifies. Darius and Rico fight back to back, their laskins barking. Elara stays close, using her laskin, but also keeping an eye on the wounded. At one point, she drags a fellow soldier to cover under heavy fire. You see Sergeant Valker engaged in vicious hand-to-hand combat with an orc twice her size. Her bionic arm proves deadly, crushing the orc's skull. The sight galvanizes you. You yell to your squad, urging them onward. You push together up the hill. Suddenly, there is a lull in the enemy fire. The orcs are retreating into their fortification. You and your squad surge forward and jump into their trench. The fortification is a mess of scrap metal, spikes, and crude barricades. It is dark and cramped. The smell of sweat and grime is overwhelming. You move through the narrow passageways, laskin raised. At one corner, an orc leaps out. You fire point blank, killing it. You clear room after room with your squad, shouting clear. Each time you turn a corner, you expect to meet death. Miraculously, you emerge alive on the far side of the fortification. Once the fortification is secured, you set up a perimeter. Imperial banners are raised. You prepare for the inevitable counterattack. Indeed, within minutes, orcs regroup and charge uphill. You and your squad position yourselves behind sandbags and open fire. You feel a grim sense of determination. You will not yield the ground you have taken. The orcs crash against your line, but are repelled by disciplined volleys and support from heavy weapons teams. You hear the roar of a chimera as it arrives to reinforce you. The tide turns. After hours of fighting, the orcs fall back. The hill is yours. When the battle finally ends, exhaustion hits you like a tidal wave. You slump behind a barricade, panting. Your uniform is soaked with sweat and splattered with mud and blood. Your arms ache from constant firing. You look around. Elara is treating Rico, who has a grazing wound on his arm. Darius sits on a rock, staring blankly at the battlefield. Sergeant Valker does a head count and nods. We held, she says simply. The cost becomes apparent as Medicaid teams carry away the dead and wounded. Several squads have been decimated. The victory feels hollow when you see empty spaces where friends once stood. As night falls, you help fortify the newly captured position. You build new trenches, set up heavy weapon emplacements, and lay mines. You know the orcs will return. Captain Logan congratulates the company. He says your actions saved the flank and allowed other units to advance. His praise is brief. There is no time for celebration. War never pauses. You eat a cold ration pack and drink stale water. You try to sleep on the hard ground, but every creak and shout makes you jump. Your body trembles from adrenaline and fatigue. You replay the day's events in your mind. The screams, the smell of blood, the look in the orc's eyes. These images will haunt you forever. The next day brings another attack. The orcs launch a furious assault at dawn. They are relentless. They climb over their dead and throw themselves at your line. You fight from the trenches, shooting until your power pack runs dry, then reloading and shooting again. You throw grenades into clumps of orcs. You feel a sickening crunch each time a grenade finds its mark. The battle lasts for hours. You wonder how long you can hold. Eventually, artillery support arrives. Basilisk guns behind you fire explosive shells that rain death on the enemy. The orcs retreat once more. You survive another day. In the following weeks, the fighting continues. Some days are filled with pitched battles, others with restless waiting. Rain turns the trenches into mud pits. Rats scurry round. Shells fall at random. You adapt to life at the front. You learn to sleep in short snatches, eat quickly, and keep your gear. War is not just about battles. Most of your time is spent waiting, preparing, enduring the elements, and following orders. Life at the front is a mixture of boredom, discomfort, and sudden, brutal violence. You wake up in the trenches each morning with your uniform damp and your body aching. You quickly learn that small routines, cleaning your weapon, boiling water, checking your kit, give structure to the day. Without them, the monotony would break you. The weather on the throne of war is unforgiving. It rains often, turning the trenches into muddy channels. When the rain stops, dust storms sweep through, coating everything in fine grit. The trenches themselves are a world. Narrow walkways connect firing positions and dugouts. Dugouts are small shelters where you and your squad squeeze in to rest and eat. They are dark and smell of damp clothing. You decorate your dugout with small things: a scratch drawing, a piece of cloth from home. These tokens make the space feel slightly more human. Life here is communal. You share your food, your jokes, and your fears. You share everything because there is no privacy. Elara carefully organizes your limited medical supplies in a corner. Rico tinkers with a broken lantern to provide extra light. You all make the best of it. Meals at the front are simple and monotonous. You are issued ration bars and nutrient paste. Occasionally, a supply convoy brings fresh bread or grox meat. When that happens, morale lifts. You learn to appreciate small pleasures and extra cup of recaf, a piece of fruit from a passing trader. You also learn to eat quickly. At any moment, an alarm could sound and send you scrambling to your post. Eating becomes a functional task rather than a leisurely activity. You still sometimes recall meals at home, how your mother's cooking smelled. Those memories keep you going when the paste tastes especially bland. Hygiene is a constant struggle. You try to wash when you can, but water is rationed. Lice and fleas become constant companions. You shave your head to prevent lice from spreading. You clean your boots to prevent trench foot. These tasks are not just about comfort. They are about survival. A small infection can kill. Elara is vigilant about injuries. She inspects feet, bandages cuts, and insists on clean socks. You may grumble, but you know she is right. Illness can ravage a regiment faster than enemy fire. Communication in the trenches is vital. Vox operators maintain connections with company headquarters and neighboring units. You learn basic Vox protocols in case the operator is killed. Messages are relayed constantly, updates on enemy movement, requests for ammunition, orders to shift positions. At times, the Vox crackles with static, and you worry about being cut off. When artillery units need coordinates, you quickly relay them. The ability to call for fire support can save lives. You witness this when an orc attack is halted by timely basilisk barrages. Warhammer 40K.fandom.com. The sound of outgoing shells becomes a comforting roar. It means you are not alone. Time at the front blurs. You measure days not by the sun but by routines. Stand to at dawn and dusk, meals, patrols, maintenance, sentry duty, and occasional lulls. Stand to is the time when everyone manning the trenches remains alert at first light, and last light prime times for enemy attacks. Your squad huddles in firing positions, Laskins at the ready, eyes scanning the horizon. Most of the time nothing happens. Occasionally, you spot orcs moving in the distance. The anticipation is stressful. You often whisper jokes to ease the tension. Even the darkest humor helps. It is how you cope. Patrols are dangerous but necessary. At night, small teams venture out into no man's land to gather information, retrieve wounded, or set booby traps. The landscape is littered with craters, barbed wire, and the bodies of fallen soldiers and orcs. The ground is uneven and treacherous. You move slowly, listening for every sound. The moon provides the only light. You practice moving without making noise, controlling your breathing. Patrolling is frightening. Every shadow could hide an enemy. Every step could trigger a mine. Yet you volunteer because you know that without patrols, the company would be blind. Knowledge of the enemy's movements can mean the difference between life and death. Letters from home are rare but treasured. Mail arrives sporadically, often damp and stained. When a courier appears with a pouch of letters, everyone gathers, hoping for news. If you receive a letter, you read it slowly, savouring every word. Your family writes about life in the hive, about your siblings' daily routines, about community festivals. They tell you they pray for you. They cannot fully imagine what you are going through, but their words bring warmth. If you do not receive a letter, it stings. You wonder if they forgot you or if your letter simply did not get through. You try not to dwell on it. Entertainment is scarce. Sometimes, soldiers tell stories or sing songs. Rico plays a small harmonica he brought from home. Elara hums hymns to the Emperor. You attempt to recall jokes from your time in the hive. There is a deck of cards that is constantly in use. You play a game called Regicide, a tactical game reflecting imperial politics. The matches get heated and provide a welcome distraction. You also read the Imperial Infantryman's uplifting primer again and again. It becomes both a source of propaganda and a talisman. You start to find comfort in its pages, even if you know some of its claims are exaggerated. One day, you are assigned to a fatigue detail. You and others must repair a section of trench destroyed by artillery. The job is exhausting. You shovel mud, stack sandbags, and hammer in wooden supports. Your hands blister. Your back aches. You know that the repaired trench might be blown apart tomorrow, but you work diligently. Maintaining trenches is as important as fighting. Without strong defenses, the enemy could overrun you. The physical labor is also a way to channel your frustrations. Each shovelful is a small act of defiance against the war's misery. Occasionally, you are granted a brief respite behind the lines. You travel by Chimera transport to a rear camp where conditions are slightly better. There are showers with hot water luxuries. There is a mess hall with better food. You feel human again after washing off layers of grime. You also see the bigger picture: endless supply convoys, rows of artillery, squads training in open fields. The scale of the Imperial war machine is immense. Warhammer 40K.fandom.com. You are a single cog, but the machine moves because of cogs like you. You take comfort in this even as you return to the front. Despite the hardships, you find moments of beauty. One morning, you catch a sunrise that paints the sky pink and gold despite the smoke. The colors are reminiscent of the pictures you've seen in books, the ones you never thought were real. You stand with your squad, silent, appreciating the scene. Even in war, the universe can be beautiful. You realize that life is not just about suffering and death. It is also about small joys. These moments remind you of what you are fighting to protect: the chance for ordinary people to see the sun rise without fear. The psychological strain of life at the front weighs on everyone. You start to notice signs of fatigue in your comrades. Rico snaps more quickly than before. Elara stares into the distance more often. Darius laughs at inappropriate times. You know that this is a coping mechanism. You find yourself dreaming about home, about your family. You also dream about the battlefield. You sometimes wake up with your heart racing, your hands clenched. You feel guilty for surviving when others have died. Survivor's guilt is real, and it gnaws at you. You share these feelings with your squad, and they share theirs. You support each other. Every week, the commissar visits to deliver speeches and enforce discipline. He inspects the trenches, executes a deserter once, and publicly announces the reason. His presence is a reminder of the consequences of failure. Warhammer 40K.fandom.com. His speeches are full of slogans about duty and sacrifice. They sometimes feel repetitive, but they also reinforce that you are part of something larger. The commissar stresses that cowardice is contagion. He orders everyone to maintain vigilance. While his methods are harsh, they keep the regiment focused. You may hate him, but you cannot deny his role. As days turn into weeks, you adapt to the rhythm of war. You become adept at distinguishing the sound of incoming shells from outgoing ones. You can guess the caliber of artillery by the sound it makes. You learn to fix minor issues with your lascan on the fly. Thanks to Rico's guidance, you know when to duck instinctively. You also become numb to things that would have horrified you before. The sight of bodies no longer makes you vomit. The smell of blood becomes normal. You worry about what this means for your humanity. You hope that after the war, you can reclaim the parts of yourself that you have suppressed. Near the end of Chapter 5, you reflect on the routines and hardships of life at the front. War has become your reality. Each day is a test of endurance, mentally and physically. You have learned to appreciate small joys and to endure constant discomfort. You have discovered that the bonds with your squad are what keep you sane. Without them, the war would break you. You have also learned that the front is not a place of constant heroics, but of grinding duty. Life at the front is about surviving long enough to fight another day. It is about maintaining your humanity in a place designed to strip it away. The chapter ends with a renewed understanding of the grim routine that defines the soldier's life. As the war drags on, the significance of comradeship becomes more apparent. The bonds you form with your fellow soldiers are more than just friendships. They are lifelines. You trust your squad with your life. They trust you with theirs. You learn each other's strengths and weaknesses intimately. You know that Darius has a steady hand under pressure, that Elara is calm when treating the wounded, and that Rico can fix almost anything. These strengths complement each other. You also know that Jax tends to freeze when orders are unclear, and that another squad mate, Lena, has a temper that flares under stress. Knowing these traits helps you work together effectively. You grow especially close to your squad leader, Sergeant Vokir. She is tough but fair. She pushes you hard because she knows the enemy will push you harder. She explains her decisions when possible, building trust. When she is forced to discipline someone, she does it quickly and then moves on. She shares stories of her previous campaigns against Chaos Cultists fantasyflightgames.com. She reveals that she once froze in her first battle and nearly got her squad killed. This admission surprises you. It shows that even seasoned soldiers make mistakes. It also humanizes her. She becomes not just an authority figure but a mentor. The dynamics within your company are influenced by the officers above you. Captain Logan is competent and cares about his men. He visits the trenches, listens to concerns and adjusts tactics based on feedback. He emphasizes clear communication and teamwork. You contrast this with stories you've heard from other units about officers who stay far behind the lines and issue orders disconnected from reality. You realize how lucky you are to have a commanding officer who values lives as well as objectives. It makes you more willing to follow his orders, even when they are dangerous. You also interact with support personnel, such as the tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus who maintain vehicles and equipment, and the Ministorum priests who provide spiritual guidance. The tech priests are mysterious with their robes and implanted mechadendrites. They speak in machine cant and worship the machine spirit. You do not fully understand their rituals, but you respect their expertise. Without them, the tanks would grind to a halt and the guns would fall silent. The priests, on the other hand, deliver sermons that sometimes feel hollow, but other times provide genuine comfort. One priest, Father Galen, has a gentle voice. He speaks about finding light in darkness. His words resonate with you. Comradeship extends beyond your immediate squad. You build relationships with other squads in your company. You share trenches with a squad from another hive world. They speak with a different accent and have different customs. At first, there is tension. Rivalries surface in the form of jokes and competitions. But after a few joint missions, respect grows. You see them fight bravely and cover your flank. They see you stand your ground under fire. Mutual trust develops. In the end, you are all Imperial Guardsmen. The differences fade under the weight of shared experience. The command structure of the Imperial Guard is rigid but necessary to manage millions of soldiers. Warhammer 40K.fandom.com. Orders flow from high command to platoon leaders to squad sergeants. You may sometimes question decisions, but you understand that in the chaos of battle, obedience is essential. You have witnessed what happens when units act independently. Confusion, friendly fire and failure. The regiment functions like a machine. Each cog must turn in time. As you progress, you learn to trust in the chain of command. You also learn when to raise concerns. Sergeant Walker encourages you to speak up during planning sessions. This open communication fosters a sense of ownership over the mission. You experience leadership challenges when you temporarily take charge. During a patrol, Sergeant Walker is injured. She orders you to lead the squad back to the trenches. Panic flickers inside you, but you suppress it. You remember training, maintain composure, issue clear instructions, keep the squad together. You assign roles, set a pace and navigate carefully. Darius helps with navigation. Ilara monitors Walker's wound. You manage to avoid enemy patrols and get everyone home safely. The experience is frightening but empowering. It gives you empathy for your leaders. Making decisions under pressure is difficult. You vow to support them more actively. Not all officers are competent. During one operation, a newly arrived lieutenant orders an assault without proper reconnaissance. He dismisses warnings from experienced sergeants. The result is a disaster. Your company walks into a minefield. Explosions rip through the ranks. Screams fill the air. You scramble to drag wounded soldiers to safety. The lieutenant panics and freezes. Captain Logan intervenes, taking command and ordering a retreat. The incident angers everyone. Later, the lieutenant is reassigned. The lesson is clear. Leadership carries heavy responsibility. Poor decisions cost lives. You resolve to respect competent leaders and hold incompetent ones accountable. The commissar remains a constant presence. He is both feared and, surprisingly, respected. He enforces discipline harshly, but he also fights alongside the men. During a particularly intense orc assault, he stands on the parapet, firing his bolt pistol and shouting rallying cries. His courage is undeniable. When a guardsman attempts to desert, the commissar executes him without hesitation. Warhammer 40K, FANDOM.com. The act is brutal but reinforces discipline. You struggle with the morality of his role. Is it right to kill your own? You conclude that in war, harsh measures may be necessary to prevent greater disaster. It is a grim truth of the Imperium. You witness acts of extraordinary bravery within your company. During a rescue mission, Lena charges into a burning bunker to pull out a trapped soldier. She emerges with her armor on fire but saves the man's life. For her heroism, She receives a citation and a small medallion. The recognition boosts morale. Another time, a Vox operator stays at his post relaying coordinates even as shells explode around him. His steadiness saves your line from being overrun. Heroic acts stand out in the monotony of war. They remind you that individuals can make a difference. Conversely, you witness cowardice and betrayal. In one instance, a soldier panics during an orc charge and throws down his weapon. His fear is contagious. Those near him hesitate. Sergeant Valkyr reacts quickly. She strikes the soldier, shouts him back into position and reports the incident. The soldier is later punished. You feel sorry for him. Fear is natural, but you also see how dangerous uncontrolled fear can be. It can doom a unit. The incident reinforces the importance of discipline and training. You realize that courage is a habit built through practice. Between missions, you discuss command decisions with your squad. You debate tactics, share opinions, and learn from mistakes. These discussions help you develop a more nuanced understanding of leadership. You learn to appreciate the complexities officers face balancing mission objectives with troop welfare, interpreting orders from above, making quick decisions under pressure. You also realize that complaining without offering solutions is unhelpful. Your conversations become more constructive. You propose ideas, such as using scouts to gather intelligence or adjusting firing lines. Sergeant Valkyr listens and implements good suggestions. This collaborative approach strengthens your trust. Command decisions sometimes lead to sacrifice. During a defense of a supply convoy, your company is ordered to hold at all costs. The convoy carries vital ammunition and medical supplies. You set up an ambush and wait. When orcs appear, the battle is fierce. At one point, Sergeant Valkyr orders Rico to take a position exposed to heavy fire to cover a retreat. Rico does so without hesitation. He provides suppressive fire that allows the rest of the squad to fall back safely. He is wounded but survives. The incident emphasizes that sometimes you must risk one to save many. It is a harsh calculus, but war is full of harsh calculations. As Chapter 6 draws to a close, you reflect on the importance of comradeship and leadership. The bonds with your squad are your support system. Without them, the war would be unendurable. Leadership shapes your experience. Competent leaders inspire confidence. Incompetent ones breed resentment and chaos. You see the value of strict discipline tempered with empathy. You understand that war demands sacrifices, and you hope that those sacrifices are not in vain. The chapter ends with a deeper appreciation for the people around you, from your fellow guardsmen to the officers and even the commissar. Their actions, both good and bad, determine your survival. One element of command you encounter is the bureaucracy of the Departmentum Unitorum. Between battles, you are sometimes assigned to administrative tasks such as organizing supply manifests or cataloging equipment. The Munitorum clerks are overworked and often grumpy. They refer to soldiers by numbers rather than names. At first, you resent being treated like cargo. However, after spending a day filing requisition forms, you realize the immense paperwork required to move a single crate of Laskin power packs. The clerks' jobs are tedious but essential. Without proper records, regiments would go hungry or run out of ammunition. This insight softens your anger. You begin to appreciate that the war machine is held together not only by fighters but also by countless unseen administrators. Your squad occasionally meets higher-ranking officers from other branches of the military. During a lull, an Imperial Navy lieutenant visits to coordinate orbital bombardment. He wears a crisp. After months of continuous combat, you start to feel the psychological weight of war. Physically, you are stronger than when you left your hive. Mentally, you are stretched thin. You have seen things that will haunt you forever. Nightmares plague your sleep. In them, you relive battles, hear the screams of the dying and smell the smoke. You wake up drenched in sweat, your heart racing. Sometimes you cannot remember if an event happened in the dream or in real life. The line between memories and nightmares blurs. You find it harder to relax. Even when you are safe behind the lines, you feel on edge. Small triggers provoke strong reactions. The sound of thunder makes you duck instinctively, thinking it is an artillery shell. The smell of burning meat in the mess hall reminds you of charred bodies. You find yourself scanning crowds for threats, even in safe zones. Your body is always ready to fight or flee. This constant vigilance is exhausting. Elara once dropped a cup, and the sound made Darius scream and point his laskin at nothing. He shook for minutes after. You realized that this was not cowardice. It was a nervous system overloaded by trauma. You all suffer to varying degrees. You observe changes in your mood. There are days when you feel numb, indifferent to the world. You go through the motions automatically. Food tastes bland. Jokes seem forced. Other days, you feel extreme anger at minor inconveniences. A broken bootlace makes you want to scream. You snap at Rico for humming too loudly. You feel guilty afterwards. You know these mood swings are symptoms of stress. The camp's Medicaid staff talk about battle fatigue, a condition that affects soldiers exposed to prolonged combat. They offer counseling, but resources are limited. You wait in line for hours to talk to someone for 10 minutes. Fear takes many forms. There is the immediate fear of death on the battlefield. There is also the fear of losing your humanity. You worry about becoming numb to violence. You catch yourself referring to enemies as targets, not people. You worry about enjoying the adrenaline rush of combat. You worry about what you will do when the war is over. How will you return to normal life after all you have seen? These questions weigh heavily. You talk to Alara about them. She says she thinks about them too. It helps to know you are not alone. You witness the effects of psychological stress on others. A soldier named Brecht begins to drink from hidden flasks at every opportunity. At first, his behavior is tolerated. Everyone needs a coping mechanism. But soon he misses guard shifts, endangering his squad. Sergeant Vauquier intervenes. Brecht is disciplined and sent to see the Medicaid. It is a reminder that while coping mechanisms are necessary, they must not compromise the group. Another soldier stops talking altogether, withdrawing into himself. He stares at the wall for hours. He is eventually evacuated. You wonder if he will ever recover. Humor remains a vital tool. Dark humor becomes your default. You joke about having a collection of orc teeth or about the taste of ration paste. The jokes are grim, but they lighten the mood. Laughing at the absurdity of your situation gives you a sense of control. You find yourself laughing with tears in your eyes. It is cathartic. One night, Rico impersonates the commissar's pompous speech patterns, complete with exaggerated mustache twirls. Everyone laughs, including Vauquier. These moments of levity are essential. They remind you that you can still find joy amidst chaos. Faith, whether genuine or adopted for survival, plays a role in coping. Some soldiers become more devout. They attend every sermon, carry rosaries and recite prayers constantly. Father Galen offers comforting words. He acknowledges the horrors you face but assures you that your sacrifices matter. He says the Emperor sees your struggles and will reward you in the afterlife, whether or not you believe him. His gentle tone suits you. You find yourself repeating prayers before battles. They provide structure and a sense of connection to something larger. Even septics find themselves whispering. The Emperor protects at desperate moments. The war also changes your moral compass. Killing becomes normal. You rationalize that the enemy orcs, chaos cultists, traitors is less than human or poses a grave threat. You must dehumanize them to function. After a particularly brutal battle, you find yourself smiling when an orc warboss is blasted apart by artillery. You catch the expression on your face and feel disturbed. You remind yourself that you are still human. You share your concern with Alara. She nods and says she felt the same after treating an enemy wound with indifference. You agree to check on each other, to remind yourselves that compassion is not weakness. Loss is a constant companion. You have lost comrades in battle. Each death hits differently. Some are quick and almost unreal, an explosion, a missing body. Others are slow and painful. You watch as a friend bleeds out, whispering his mother's name. You hold his hand until it goes cold. You feel anger at the war, at the enemy, at the officers. You feel guilt for surviving. Survivor's guilt gnaws at you. You replay the battle, wondering if you could have done something differently. You know logically that you cannot save everyone, but emotion defies logic. Commissar speeches about honor and duty ring hollow when you attend funerals. Bodies are wrapped in cloth and buried in shallow graves. A brief ceremony is held. A priest recites a prayer. The commissar salutes. Then everyone returns to the trenches. There is no time to grieve. You carry the memory of the fallen silently. You and your squad create small rituals to honor them. You carve their names into your lascan stock or pin their ID tags inside your armor. It is your way of ensuring they are not forgotten. Sleep is no longer restful. You suffer from insomnia. Some nights you lie awake, staring into darkness, afraid to close your eyes. Other nights, when sleep finally comes, you dream of your hive, of your family. You wake up disoriented, disappointed that the dream was not real. You try to nap during the day when the trenches are quieter, but you are always aware that danger could arrive at any moment. The lack of sleep compounds your stress. The Medicae provides stimulants to keep you awake during duties and sedatives to help you sleep. You worry about becoming dependent on these chemicals. You notice an unexpected phenomenon. You become desensitized to certain horrors, while being hypersensitive to others. The sight of blood no longer bothers you, but the sound of a child crying sends you into panic. You shrug off your own injuries, but break down when Alara cuts her hand. You find it easier to charge into gunfire than to write a letter home. These reactions confuse you. You conclude that your mind is trying to protect you by numbing certain stimuli and amplifying others. Understanding this helps you be kinder to yourself. You realize that there is no right way to process trauma. Talking about your feelings helps. Your squad holds informal counseling sessions. You sit in a circle, away from the commissar's ears, and take turns speaking. You share nightmares, fears, regrets, and hopes. You find that voicing your thoughts relieves some of the burden. It also deepens your bond. You feel less alone. You learn that Jax fears dying without making a difference, that Darius worries about his younger siblings back home, and that Lena dreams of opening a cafe after the war. These conversations humanize each of you beyond the war. They remind you of the life you are fighting to preserve. As the chapter ends, you reflect on the psychological toll war takes. The physical wounds heal. The mental ones linger. You recognize that you and your comrades have changed. Some changes are necessary for survival. Others are troubling. You vow to support one another, to hold on to your humanity even when the universe seems determined to strip it away. You know that the war will not end soon. The toll will increase, but acknowledging it is the first step in managing it. Chapter 7 concludes with a renewed commitment to mental resilience, bolstered by comradeship, humor, faith, and honesty. The war may break many things, but it does not have to break your soul. As weeks pass, strange phenomena sometimes occur at the front. You hear stories of soldiers seeing phantom figures in the fog, hearing voices calling their names when no one is there. At first, you dismiss these as stress-induced hallucinations, but one night, while on sentry duty, you glimpse a shape moving in no man's land. You raise your lascan, but the shape disappears. You rub your eyes and shake your head. You later learn that another soldier saw the same thing from a different angle. You cannot explain it. Whether it is a trick of the light or something more sinister, it adds to the unease. You realize that the battlefield plays tricks on the mind. You discuss these incidents with your squad, deciding to trust your training rather than your senses in such moments. The fear of losing yourself persists. You worry that the war will define you completely. You remember the person you were before being drafted, a worker with hopes, hobbies, and dreams. You fear that these aspects are fading. To counter this, you carve out time to engage with your old interests. You sketch scenes of the landscape, even if they are bleak. You teach Darius how to draw. He laughs at his stick figures, but the act of creating something non-violent feels liberating. Alara shares recipes from your hive, and you write them down, imagining cooking them someday. These activities ground you. They remind you that you are more than a soldier. You also fear what might happen if the war ends. Some veterans speak of feeling purposeless after returning home. They describe missing the camaraderie and the adrenaline. They talk about, during a rare quiet period, your company is rotated to a rear area for rest and refit. You are exhausted from months of frontline duty. The rear area is bustling with activity. Rows of tents house Medicae wards, supply depots, and command posts. Tanks and artillery are lined up in neat rows. Servitors and tech priests move between vehicles, performing maintenance. You see towering Titans' massive war machines striding in the distance. Their presence is awe-inspiring. You realize that your battles are part of something much larger. The Imperium fights on countless fronts. The scale of the war is overwhelming. Warhammer 40K.fandom.com. An officer gathers your company for a briefing. A large display shows the sector map. Colored markers represent Imperial and enemy forces. The officer explains that the war on the throne of war is just one small operation in a sector-wide campaign. Other planets are facing chaos incursions, orc WAAGs, and Tyranid hive fleets. Resources are stretched thin. The Astra Militarism has to cover most fronts because there are not enough space marines and other elite troops. Warhammer 40K.fandom.com. The officer emphasizes that your sacrifices contribute to the larger strategic picture. Without the Guard, the Imperium would crumble. You feel both humbled and burdened by this responsibility. You learn about the different branches of the Imperial military. The Adeptus Astartes, or Space Marines, are genetically enhanced super soldiers. They are few in number, but incredibly powerful. They are often deployed to critical HOTSPOTSWARHAMMER40K.FANDOM.com. The Adeptus Mechanicus operates massive war machines and provides technological expertise. The Adeptus Sororitas, also known as the Sisters of Battle, are warrior nuns devoted to the Emperor. The Imperial Navy controls the ships that transport troops and engage in space battles. The Astra Militarism, your branch, provides the bulk of infantry and armor. Understanding the interplay between these branches gives you a better sense of the war's complexity. You see that cooperation is essential. You also learn about the Imperium's enemies. The orcs you have been fighting are just one threat. Chaos forces are humans corrupted by the dark gods. They use both conventional and warp-based weapons. They are unpredictable and dangerous. Tyranids are hive creatures that consume everything in their path. Their numbers are endless, and they adapt quickly. The Necrons are ancient robotic beings with advanced technology. They are cold and relentless. The Tau are technologically advanced and seek to expand their greater good. You realize that each foe requires different tactics. The Astra Militarism must be versatile. The war is a constant balancing act, shifting resources and strategies to meet each threat. During your time in the rear, you attend briefings on logistics. You are amazed at the sheer amount of supplies needed to sustain a war: ammunition, fuel, food, medical equipment, spare parts. Everything must be transported across light years. You meet members of the Departmentum Unitorum, the bureaucracy responsible for logistics. They are efficient but overworked. They talk about supply quotas, shipment schedules, and the challenges of delivering materials to front lines under fire. You gain a new appreciation for the unseen workers who keep you alive. Without them, your Laskin would be useless, and you would starve. You understand that war is not just fought by those at the front, but also by those behind the scenes. The rear area is also where you see how casualties are handled. Medicae tents are filled with wounded soldiers. The air is thick with the smell of antiseptic and the sound of groans. Chirurgeons and Medicae staff move quickly, amputating limbs, stitching wounds, and administering painkillers. The sight is sobering. You realize how lucky you have been. You also see soldiers with prosthetic limbs and bionic eyes, evidence that technology can restore some functionality, but not erase trauma. You feel gratitude for Alara and the Medicae who have kept you alive. You vow to never take their work for granted. One day, you are taken to a hill overlooking a massive battlefield. From this height, you see the movement of whole regiments. Tanks roll forward in formation. Artillery fires from behind, sending shells arching into the distance. Infantry advances in waves. Aircraft streak overhead, dropping bombs. The scene is both beautiful and horrifying. The coordination required is immense. One mistake could spell disaster. You understand that you are part of a giant, intricate dance choreographed by commanders you will never meet. The scale of the war is beyond your comprehension. You feel both small and significant. Your company receives a visitor, a Space Marine captain. He is enormous, clad in power armor adorned with chapter symbols. He radiates authority. He speaks briefly, praising the courage of the guardsmen. He emphasizes that while Space Marines are powerful, they are few, and they rely on the Imperial Guard to hold the line. WARHAMMER40K.FANDOM.com. He thanks you for your sacrifice. His presence inspires awe. You feel proud to be acknowledged by such a legendary warrior. You also feel the weight of his words. If even Space Marines admit they need you, then your role is vital. The experience renews your determination. During this period, you encounter propaganda from the Adeptus Ministorum. Posters depict heroic guardsmen standing atop piles of alien corpses. Vox broadcasts proclaim that victory is imminent. Priests preach that the Emperor's light shines brightest in the darkest times. You recognize the propaganda for what it is: motivational tools. You are not fooled into thinking victory is near. The war will rage on for years, perhaps centuries. Yet you allow yourself to be motivated by these messages. They provide hope and give your suffering meaning. Without hope, despair would consume you. You hear rumors about other fronts. A regiment fighting Tyranids reportedly lost entire battalions in hours. Another regiment defending a forge world fought for months without relief. You learn that some worlds rebelled against the Imperium and were subjected to exterminatus, the complete destruction of a planet to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. The thought of exterminatus horrifies you. It shows the extremes the Imperium will go to. It also makes you realize the stakes. Losing a planet can mean the death of billions and the loss of vital resources. You understand why the Guard must be ruthless. Your unit participates in a large review parade in the rear area. It is meant to boost morale. You march in formation alongside other regiments. Banners wave. Officers salute. The parade ground is lined with dignitaries, local governors, Adeptus officials, even an Inquisitor. The Inquisitor's presence is chilling. Their authority surpasses even that of the Commissar. They can order executions, purge entire regiments, and declare exterminatus. You hope you never draw their scrutiny. The parade is impressive, but you cannot shake the feeling that you are being evaluated. You keep your expression neutral and march perfectly. After rest and refit, your company receives new recruits. Fresh faces arrive, wearing crisp uniforms and carrying clean laskins. They look at you with a mix of admiration and fear. You see yourself in them. You take on a mentor role, teaching them basic tips. You show them how to arrange their gear, how to avoid trench foot, and how to handle their weapons. You share advice about keeping morale up. Passing on your knowledge gives you purpose. It helps you process your own experiences. You realize that the cycle continues. You were once a recruit. Now you are a veteran. You understand that you must help the next generation survive. As Chapter 8 concludes, you feel a shift in perspective. You now see the war not just from the trenches, but from a strategic viewpoint. You understand the roles of different branches of the military and the scale of the conflict. You appreciate the logistics that sustain the war. You respect the medicae, the tech priests, and the bureaucrats who support you. You see that your sacrifices contribute to a larger cause. The chapter ends with you returning to the front lines, newly aware of the bigger picture. The war is still brutal, but you feel more connected to the Imperium struggle. Before departing the rear, you stand on a promontory overlooking the endless columns of soldiers, tanks, and supply trucks. You close your eyes and listen to the chorus of engines, footsteps, and orders. It sounds like a heartbeat, the heartbeat of the Imperium. You whisper a vow to play your part faithfully, understanding that your actions, however small, are threads woven into a grand design. This moment of contemplation steels you for the fight ahead. You turn away, march toward the transports, and prepare to rejoin the front with renewed resolve. During your stay in the rear, you have the opportunity to attend a lecture by a senior strategist from the Departamento Strategicus. He explains the concept of total war in the 41st millennium. The Imperium's economy is geared entirely towards war production. Forge worlds churn out weapons, vehicles, and ammunition. Agri worlds produce food for billions. Hive worlds like yours supply manpower. Shrine worlds provide spiritual support. Each type of world has a role. The strategist maps out supply routes across the sector, showing how convoys navigate warp storms and pirate attacks. He emphasizes that if even one link in this chain breaks, entire armies could be stranded without supplies. You realize that your battles depend on countless unseen factors. The war is as much about economics and logistics as it is about fighting. You spend time at a Mechanicus repair bay, watching tech priests work. They chant praises to the machine spirit as they dismantle a damaged Lehman Russ tank. Their mechadendrites move with precision. In the midst of endless war, hope emerges in unexpected places. These glimpses keep you going. They remind you that life is more than suffering. One such moment occurs when your regiment successfully repels a massive orc offensive. After days of fighting, the enemy retreats. Captain Logan gathers the company and announces that you have been cited for bravery. He calls out individual acts of heroism. Elara is praised for saving a dozen soldiers under fire. Rico is recognized for repairing a damaged heavy bolter during battle. The company cheers. You feel a surge of pride. For a brief moment, you believe that victory is possible. You are granted a day of rest behind the lines. The weather is clear, and the sun shines through the smoke. Your squad sits on a hill overlooking a stream. You take off your boots and soak your feet in the cool water. You watch small fish dart between rocks. The simple act of feeling water and grass instead of mud and blood is healing. You breathe deeply, inhaling fresh air. You laugh easily. You throw stones and compete to see who can make the biggest splash. For a few hours, you are not soldiers. You are friends enjoying a day by the stream. The memory stays with you long after. Another moment of hope comes when your squad is assigned to escort a group of civilians to a safe zone. These civilians have been hiding in caves during the fighting. They are thin and pale. When you arrive, they look frightened. You speak gently to them, assuring them that they will be safe. A little girl clutches your hand and smiles when you compliment her toy, made from a piece of scrap metal. As you guide them through the war-torn landscape, you see hope in their eyes. They trust you. You are their protector. Delivering them to safety feels meaningful. You realize that your actions have tangible benefits beyond strategic objectives. Messages from home also uplift you. One day, you receive a letter from your sibling. They describe how they recently earned a commendation at work. They tell you about a new stall that sells sweet pastries near your old block. They mention a friend who remembers you fondly. The letter smells faintly of oil and spices home. You feel tears prick your eyes. You read the letter repeatedly, savoring each detail. You share the news with your squad. They listen attentively, as if the letter is a precious treasure. You feel connected to your past, to a world beyond war. Faith can be a source of hope. Father Galen organizes a small service to honor the dead and bless the living. The service is simple. Soldiers gather, bow their heads and listen as he speaks about the Emperor's love and the promise of reunion with loved ones after death. He speaks in a way that acknowledges your pain and does not belittle it. You find comfort in his words, even if you are unsure about an afterlife. The idea that those you have lost are at peace brings solace. You leave the service with a lighter heart. You feel that your sacrifices are seen and appreciated, even if only by your comrades. You experience joy in small victories. One night, your squad plays a regicide tournament. You and Darius team up and manage to checkmate Rico and Jax in a clever move. Everyone laughs and cheers. The tournament becomes a highlight. The games are intense, and the stakes are bragging rights. The laughter echoes through the trenches. The game is a reminder that your mind is still sharp. War has not stolen your ability to think strategically. It also provides a way to channel your competitive energy into something harmless. Humor remains a constant companion. Rico continues to tell jokes. Darius writes a song about trench cuisine that pokes fun at ration paste. Ilara shares a funny story about a commissar who tripped over a sandbag. You laugh until your sides hurt. Laughter becomes a lifeline. It counters despair. It allows you to see beauty in the absurd. You also learn to laugh at yourself. You joke about your muddy boots being a fashion statement. The humor is dark at times, but it is healing. It prevents you from drowning in sorrow. You find hope in acts of kindness. During a patrol, you come across an injured enemy combatant. He is young and terrified. He begs for mercy. Your squad hesitates. The commissar would order his execution. Ilara steps forward and tends to his wounds. You and Darius keep watch. You may be told to kill the enemy, but in that moment, compassion triumphs. You later hand him over to Medicae staff as a prisoner. He looks at you with gratitude. This act of mercy reminds you that not everyone on the other side is a monster. War pits humans against each other, but humanity can still shine through. Education brings hope too. Between battles, Captain Logan invites a Ministorum scholar to give lectures on history, science, and art. These lectures are optional, but many attend. The scholar shows images of distant worlds, lush agri-planets, towering cathedrals on shrine worlds, shimmering oceans on pleasure worlds. He talks about great artists who painted scenes of peace, poets who wrote about love, and scientists who discovered new technologies. You are reminded that the Imperium is not just war. There is culture, beauty, and progress. You imagine visiting these places one day. The lectures ignite a spark of curiosity. They help you dream of a future beyond battlefields. Hope emerges when you witness resilience. You see a soldier who lost a leg returning to duty with a prosthetic limb. He moves with determination. He refuses pity. His attitude inspires you. You see a squad that lost half its members laughing together days later. They honor their fallen by living fully. You see a Medicae who has been on duty for 48 hours straight still smiling at patients. These acts of resilience show you that the human spirit is incredibly strong. They remind you that despair is not inevitable. You can endure and even thrive in the face of adversity. You are heartened by stories of victory on other fronts. You hear that a hive world on the other side of the sector successfully repelled a chaos invasion. You hear that a Space Marine chapter liberated a Forge world. These stories travel through Vox and are sometimes embellished, but they lift spirits. They show that the enemy can be defeated. They show that your efforts are part of a larger pattern of wins and losses. They remind you that the war is not unwinnable. The Imperium may be battered, but it has not fallen. You hold onto these stories as evidence that your sacrifices are worthwhile. As Chapter 9 concludes, you recognize that hope is fragile but essential. Without hope, the relentless grind of war would crush you. Hope comes in many forms: victories, friendships, letters, sunsets, kindness, lectures, and acts of resilience. You learn to collect these moments and hold them close. They become a shield against despair. The chapter ends with you sitting in the trenches at dusk, watching the sky change colors, smiling as Darius plays a tune on his harmonica. You know tomorrow will bring danger, but tonight you feel at peace. Hope, no matter how small, is a powerful weapon. As you fall asleep that night, you whisper to yourself that as long as you can find even a sliver of hope, you will keep fighting, keep laughing, and keep dreaming of peace. Another source of hope arrives in the form of a small animal. During a supply run, Rico finds a scrawny, injured feline hiding under a wrecked chimera. Its fur is matted, and its leg is bent awkwardly. Rico carefully picks it up and brings it back to the trench. Elara splints the leg and feeds it bits of ration. The cat, soon named Victory, becomes a mascot. It curls up and laps and purrs loudly, oblivious to the war around it. Soldiers smile when Victory wanders by. Caring for the cat gives you a sense of nurturing something vulnerable. It is a tiny act of defiance against the destruction outside. Victory's presence softens hearts hardened by battle. She reminds everyone that life can continue even in the darkest times. Occasionally, your regiment celebrates holidays from home. On one such day, you and your squad observe a hive festival that honors the beginning of the work cycle. In the hive, the day would be marked by communal meals and songs. Here, you improvise. You ask the cook to save some ingredients to make a simple stew that resembles the festival dish. You share stories of past festivals, laughing at memories of dancing in cramped corridors and sneaking extra sweets. You teach other soldiers a traditional song, and soon the trench is filled with voices. Celebrating the festival under the open sky feels surreal. It is not the same as being at home, but it connects you to your roots. It shows that you can carry culture with you, no matter where you are. A visiting troupe of entertainers brings music and theater to the front. They are civilians sponsored by the Departmentum Munitorum to boost morale. Their performances are crude but heartfelt. They act out heroic tales of the Emperor and comical skits about bureaucratic inefficiency. They play lively tunes on improvised instruments. Soldiers clap and whistle, enjoying the break from routine. You laugh at jokes about the taste of ration paste. You cheer when they portray a guardsman outwitting a haughty noble. The performers risk their lives to travel to war zones and offer a moment of levity. Their courage and generosity inspire you. They remind you that civilians care about the soldiers defending them. You feel connected to the wider population you serve. Letters occasionally include small gifts. One day, you receive a package containing a folded piece of cloth. It is a patch of your hive's district colors, lovingly embroidered by your sister. You sew it inside your jacket, near your heart. Rico receives a harmonica reed to replace a broken one. Elara receives a small vial of perfume. These items are tiny, but they carry love. You see other soldiers receiving carved wooden trinkets. Years have passed since you were drafted. You have fought on multiple worlds, against different enemies. You have seen victory and defeat. You have lost friends and made new ones. You have been wounded more than once. Your body carries scars, and your mind carries memories. You are now a veteran. Your armor is covered in scratches. You wear marks of service on your chest. New recruits look at you with respect and curiosity. They ask for stories and advice. You share what you can, filtering out the worst horrors. You try to prepare them without frightening them. You see yourself in their eager faces. You reflect on how the war has changed you. When you left your hive, you were naive, worried about leaving your family and confused about the Imperium's demands. Now you have a deeper understanding. You have seen the scale of the conflict. Warhammer 40K.fandom.com. You know that without the Astra Militarism, humanity would fall. You have learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. You have learned that discipline can save lives and that obedience is necessary. In the chaos of battle, you have also learned to question orders when they seem suicidal. You have learned the value of comradeship and the power of hope. You have grown. You think about those you have lost. Their names and faces are etched in your mind. You remember Rico's laughter, Elara's gentle touch, Darius' steady voice. You remember Jax's jokes, Lina's fire, and Sergeant Valker's stern smile. Some of them are still alive. Others fell in battle. You honor them by telling their stories to new recruits. You talk about Elara's bravery, Rico's ingenuity, and Darius' kindness. You ensure they are not forgotten. Their legacy lives on through you. This act of remembrance becomes your way of coping with grief. It gives meaning to their deaths. You also reflect on the morality of war. The indoctrination tells you that the enemies of mankind must be destroyed. Without mercy. Warhammer 40K.fandom.com. Yet you have seen shades of humanity in unexpected places. You remember the frightened enemy soldier you helped. You remember civilians who just wanted to live. You realize that the line between good and evil can blur. You conclude that war forces people into roles. You choose to hold onto your compassion even as you fight. You know that the Imperium's survival sometimes requires harsh actions. You accept this reality while striving to maintain your humanity. It is a delicate balance. You consider the cost of war on your own life. You have scars and nightmares. You have missed birthdays, funerals, and weddings. Your family has changed without you. Your younger siblings are grown. Your parents have aged. You wonder what it will be like when you return. Will you be able to adapt to civilian life? Will you be able to sleep without hearing artillery? You do not know. You have heard of veterans who cannot find peace after the war. The training and discipline that kept you alive may make it difficult to adjust. You prepare yourself mentally for this challenge. You feel pride in your service. You know that you have done your part to protect humanity. You have fought valiantly. You have obeyed orders, but you have also thought for yourself. You have displayed courage and compassion. You have made a difference. You recall the words of a game designer who said every guardsman's story is unique and worth telling. FantasyFlightGames.com. You now understand this deeply. Your story is one of millions, but it matters. Each soldier's experiences are threads in the tapestry of the Imperium's survival. You are proud to be a part of that tapestry. You have learned to value the small things. A cup of warm tea on a cold night. A letter from a loved one. A sunrise. A joke, a song. These small joys sustained you when everything else was bleak. You resolve to cherish them more in the future. You vow not to take peace for granted. If you return home, you plan to sit with your family, share stories, and appreciate every moment. You plan to visit places of natural beauty. You want to feel the sun on your skin without fear of shells. You want to laugh without guilt. These dreams keep you going. You also think about the future of the Imperium. The war will not end with your generation. Humanity will continue to fight. The enemy will evolve. New threats will emerge. You hope that the lessons learned on the throne of war and other battlefields will be passed down. You hope that leadership will become more compassionate and efficient. You hope that the Imperium will value its soldiers more. You want future conscripts to receive better training, better equipment, and better treatment. You believe that if enough veterans speak up, change is possible. It is a small hope, but it is something. At last, the day comes when your regiment is rotated off the front lines. A new regiment takes your place. You board a transport ship, carrying your gear and the weight of years of war. You look out the viewport and see the throne of war receding. The planet looks peaceful from space. The scars of battle are not visible from this height. You feel a mix of relief and sadness. You are leaving behind comrades who died there. You are also leaving behind a part of yourself. The war has changed you permanently. You do not know what lies ahead, but you step into the future with dignity. During the journey home, you have time to think. You write in your journal. You describe your feelings, your fears, and your hopes. You write letters to the families of the fallen, telling them that their loved ones fought bravely and died honorably. You are careful with your words. You want to convey both truth and comfort. You find that writing helps you process emotions. It helps you close this chapter of your life. You also talk to your surviving comrades. You reminisce about training on Thracia Prime, the first battle, the jokes, the songs, and the sunsets. You laugh and cry together. You cherish these moments. When you finally see your homeworld again, you feel a lump in your throat. The hive city rises from the planet like a mountain of metal and concrete. The air is thick with smog, just as you remember, yet it looks different. You are seeing it with new eyes. You feel both joy and apprehension. The transport lands at a military dock. Family members wait behind security barriers. You scan the crowd until you see familiar faces. Your mother, older now, wipes tears. Your siblings wave, shouting your name. You run to them and embrace them. The world seems to stop. You are home. Adjusting to civilian life is challenging. The noise of the hive feels different. The crowds make you anxious. You flinch at sudden sounds. You struggle to sleep on a soft bed. You miss your squad. You miss the routine. You miss the sense of purpose. At the same time, you enjoy simple pleasures, meals with your family, the laughter of children, the smell of familiar spices. You begin to find a new rhythm. You take a job at a workshop, using your mechanical skills. You volunteer at a veterans support group. You tell stories to young people. You find ways to integrate your past with your present. The war is not over, and you know you may be called again. The Imperium always needs soldiers. You keep your gear ready. You maintain your laskin. You practice drills in secret. The thought of returning to war scares you, but you also know you can survive. You have done it before. You hope that if you are called, you will fight alongside people like Sergeant Vokir, Elara, Rico and Darius. You hope that you will continue to grow and learn. You hope that one day, humanity will know peace. Until then, you will live your life fully. Honor the fallen and cherish the hope that sustained you. The chapter and the story end with you standing on a rooftop in your hive, looking at the artificial sunrise filtering through the smog. You feel the weight of your armor gone, replaced by a simple jacket. You breathe deeply, taking in the familiar scent of your world. You smile, not because the world is perfect, but because you are here. You survived. You are ready to face whatever comes next. The Emperor protects Dot as you descend the stairwell and return to the bustling streets. You carry the knowledge that even after all you have endured, you can still build, love, and hope. This realization is your final victory. During your early days back home, you struggle with mundane tasks. The noise of the hive's machinery triggers memories of artillery. The crowds in the markets make you anxious. You have to remind yourself that you are safe. You learn to ground yourself using the techniques you used at the front. You focus on the smell of spices, the feel of metal railings, and the sound of vendors calling out their wares. Slowly, you reorient your senses to this environment. You talk to other veterans and support groups. They share similar experiences, jumping at fireworks, sleeping on the floor because beds feel wrong. Knowing you are not alone helps. You also visit the local ministorum, where Father Galen has been reassigned. His presence in your hive feels like a blessing. He listens, advises, and reminds you that healing takes time. You become involved in community work. You volunteer to teach literacy to children in your district. At first, speaking in front of a class terrifies you, but you find that you enjoy helping them learn. You tell them stories about the stars, the trees on Thracia Prime, and the brave acts of your comrades. You sanitize the details, focusing on courage and camaraderie rather than gore. The children listen with wide eyes. They ask if you fought alongside Space Marines. You smile and tell them yes, briefly, and that the Marines thank the Guard. Sharing these tales helps you process your own experiences. It also inspires the children to dream beyond the hive walls. You feel a sense of purpose return.